welcome back to BBC Building Better Christians. I'm your host, Rayshawn Richardson, and before we go any further, please, if you like what you're seeing, if you like the video, please leave a comment, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you turn on your notifications so when we post, you guys get an alert. And thank you for all the love and support I've been shown already. So, without further ado, let's get into tonight's topic. Tonight's topic is know your worth. All right. What made you pick that topic? Because I hear it a lot, and typically I think about what does that mean? What is your worth? What is your worth? And it's always worldly worth. What is worldly worth? The amount of money you got, the job you have, education, your degrees, your looks, how good you look, all of that. And that's all well and good, but not saying that it's not bad to have all of those things, but is that your worth? The reason I ask that is because if that's your worth, the majority of us don't have a lot of money and a lot of education. So in essence, are those without the worldly worth, are they worthless? I don't know. But the thing about worldly worth is knowing your worldly worth is it is based in the things you have and the things you do. Now, what comes with that is a sense of entitlement. We think, because I got this job, I got a six-figure job, I got a six-figure salary, I deserve this. Deserve to me is one of those words that you never hear me use the word deserve, because I think in the eyes of God, I'm a sinner. So what does sin deserve? Death. We know the wages of sin is death. That's what sin deserves. But because God doesn't give me what I deserve, I'm able to live this life and love on people the way that I am and continue to be called a son of God. So I don't use the word deserve because I know what I deserve. And that's just me. That was a sidebar. But either way, that knowing your worldly worth is, like I said, gives you a sense of entitlement. You could treat people a certain way. Now, based off that, knowing your worldly worth, what you have and what you do, in essence, that's your righteousness, right? It could, your works is your righteousness. You know what I'm saying? So what you've done, all your degrees and all your money and all of the above, all your good looks, that gives you your worldly worth, that's your righteousness. That's going to be the equivalent to righteousness for this topic's sake and for the scriptures that we're going to use. What you do, what you have, know your worth. That is the topic. So let's keep going. But before we get into the scriptures, because we're going to this book to get these answers, think about the fact that knowing your worth causes you to treat people a certain way. It causes you to act a certain way. Example, If you were royalty, plenty of worldly worth, right? You would act different. You would treat people different. And furthermore, the example, the peasants don't act the way the king the king does, or the prince. They don't act the same. So knowing your worldly worth causes you to do that. Causes you to treat people a certain way too, whether you believe it or not. Prime example again. A big push with this knowing your worth thing is a lot of women. That's where I hear it a lot. I'm starting to hear it more with men too, which is concerning to me. But at the same time, you walk into McDonald's and the guy that's at the counter taking your order, he asks you out on a date, but you know your worth. I'm a nurse. I'm this. I'm that. I can't date no fry cook at McDonald's. Knowing your worth causes you to treat people different. That was just the point I was making. Not saying that that's all women, but so keep in mind, your worth is your righteousness. Let's get into this Bible and see what God says about your worth. All right, we're gonna do some jumping around in this book today. But it's gonna all come together if you stay with me. So first, we're going to Isaiah chapter 64, verse 6. Now again, for the sake of this show, your worth is your righteousness. It's what you have. It's what you do. Keep that in mind. All right. What does God say about your righteousness? Isaiah chapter 64, verse 6. But we are all as unclean things, and all our righteousness are as filthy rags, and we all do fade as a leaf, and our iniquities, like the wind, have taken us away. There's so much in that verse that I could get into, but for the sake of the topic, which is know your worth, I'm only going to focus on that first little part. But we are all as unclean things, and all our righteousness are as filthy rags. So, what does God say about that worth? All your degrees and all your money and all your looks and all the things you do, all the way you treat people, all of that is as a filthy rag. What is a filthy rag worth? I don't know, not much. I got a lot of rags around my house. I keep a few in my car. They're good for cleaning up messes. That's what we use filthy rags for. But God said, all our righteousness are as filthy rags. How much money would you pay for a filthy rag? Yeah, that's a good one. But that's what our righteousness is worth in the eyes of God, right? So, again, the world tells us that we need to know our worth. We need to put in the work to gain that worth. God just said, all our righteousness are as filthy rags. All that work ain't worth nothing. Why is the topic know your worth? Because knowing your worth in the Christian sense, it goes again completely against the worldly sense of your worth. How do I know? I'm gonna give you an example first. In my house, like I say, I got a lot of dirty rags. But after they get dirty, I don't make them worthless. I don't make them useless. What we got here is called a washing machine. So what do I do with those dirty rags? I throw them in the washing machine, clean them, and they are like new rags all over again. Why do you say that? That's how God is with us. And I'm going to prove it. But that's how God is with us. All of our righteousness, that filthy rag, useless, worthless, right? It's worth something. We're going to wash it, and it's going to be brand new. That is exactly how God does for us. Know your worth. All right, told you we're going to bounce around a little bit. We're going to get over to Romans chapter 4, verse 6. Even as David also described the blessedness of the man unto whom God imputeth righteousness without works, saying, Blessed are they whose iniquities are forgiven and whose sins are covered. Blessed is the man to whom the Lord will not impute sin. Now, again, there's a ton in that verse alone, but I'm going to focus on a small part here because it's to bring home this point. Know your worth. Even as David also described the blessedness of the man unto whom God imputed righteousness without works. Okay, remember what that we said, that your righteousness is your worth in this worldly view for the purpose of this, right? So, how do you get your worth or your righteousness? Blessed is the man. Oh, even as David also described the blessedness of the Son of Man unto whom God imputed righteousness without works. Our worth is imputed upon us by God as Christian people. What does imputed mean? To impute something, I know what it means, but I had to look it up so I can give you guys a better description of it. When I looked it up, the definition that Google gave me was to ascribe righteousness, guilt, etc. to someone by virtue of a similar quality in another. What is that telling me? That means you can't impute something that you don't have. So we have an imputed righteousness because God, the righteous one, gave it to us. Now, again, know your worth. Your righteousness is as a filthy rag in the sight of God. But God can use that filthy rag for his kingdom, and he needed to get something to you and me, to us, which is righteousness. Because sin can't stand in the presence of God. So he had to impute some righteousness. And it was going to cost him something. Okay. Topic of the show. Know your worth. We're going to flip on over into Romans chapter 5. Verse 8. Now, there was a lot that was still going on in between the last scripture and this one. And I know what was going on there. But for the sake of time and for the sake of the show, I didn't read it all to get us to this point. But I want to get us there because I'm going somewhere else too. All right. Romans chapter 5, verse 8. But God commended his love toward us in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Much more than being now justified by his blood, we shall be saved from wrath through him. God had to do something. It was going to cost him something. And he commended his love towards us while we were yet sinners, while we were still these filthy rags. He had to do something. He had to wash it. And what did it cost him? It cost him his son. Why is that important? Because I don't know too many things personally as a man that I would give my son for. I just don't. Like, my son and my daughter, my family is the most important, most valuable commodity or thing that I have. So I don't know who I'd give that away to or for. But God thought we was worth it enough that he gave his son. We all know the verse, John chapter 3, verse 16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that the world might be saved through him. He gave his son. Why is that important, Rayshawn? I'm glad you asked. Because that's how much you're worth. That is knowing your worth. To God, you were worth his son. Not you, me. I was worth his son. Ooh. Y'all don't know all about me, mother. Some people know, but I was a filthy rag. But God washed me. Put me in the washing machine. Dried me. I am worth the Son of God. Yeah, I had to let that one sink in for a minute, because I've been studying this for a week now, and that didn't hit me like that all week, but I'm glad it hit me now, so we all can experience it together. We all can build better Christians together with that thought that know your worth. You are worth the Son of God. There's a verse in the Bible that tells us that if a man gives you his son, what else will he keep from you? Nothing. So in the eyes of God, you are priceless. There's no price big enough that he wouldn't pay. Like I said, what more could he give? He gave his son. I am worth the Son of God. We are worth the Son of God. Know your worth. Now, why does knowing that worth equate to building better Christians? Because if you know that work, remember in the earlier part of the show, we talked about when you know your worth with the worldly worth, it causes you to act different. It causes you to treat people different. Likewise, knowing your godly worth will cause you to act different. It will cause you to treat people different. In essence, building better Christians. One of the other parts about knowing your worth in this worldly sense is that knowing your worth works for people who have all those things that the world tells you is worthy. The cars, the house, the education, the money, the job, all of those things. It works for those people. On the flip side, it works against the people who don't have those things, because those people tend to feel less about themselves because they ain't got all of that stuff. So again, knowing your worth causes you to act different. So when you're on this side of it, where you don't have all the worldly worth that people tells you is worth, it causes you to do things that you normally wouldn't do to try to attain that worth. Example, with our girls, I'm gonna go with our boys too, but with our girls, we're seeing it. Open your social media. You got our girls on there with all their clothes off and talking crazy and all this kind of stuff, trying to get that worldly worth, and not in the right way. Likewise with our boys, because they don't have that, because they feel they don't have that worth that the world tells them. We're out here throwing our lives away. We're killing each other, robbing each other, hurting each other. And all of that is because we know our worth worldly, and because we don't have it, it's causing us to act different. When what I'm pleading for is knowing your godly worth and acting on that before you act on this. Because we know what this is over here. It's material stuff. But over here, this is God, blessings of God, the bag. That's what's over here. So, know your worth, ladies and gentlemen. Not your worldly worth. And again, I'm not talking about not having that. That's fine. If you got all that, that's great. But know that that's not your worth. You, in the eyes of God, were worth his son. So, you, in essence, because you're called a child of God, you are worth that. You were worth Jesus. So, again, wrapping it all back around, knowing that you are worth the Son of God, it should cause you to act different. It should cause you to treat people different. It should cause you to love different. Know your worth. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all God gave me. I love y'all. Thank you for watching. I'm out. Peace.